I told my stepmother I wouldn't be including her in the acknowledgments of my book after she had spent 2 years telling everyone she knew that it was dedicated to her. And the conversation we had about it was the most honest we have ever managed, and also possibly the last one we will have for a long time. My book is a memoir. Not a famous one, not a bestseller, a quiet literary thing with a small press that I worked on for 6 years, and that comes out in the fall. It covers my childhood and my relationship with my father, and the years after he remarried when I was 12, which means it covers, by necessity, the years I spent learning to exist in a house that had been reorganized around a woman I had not chosen. I wrote about all of it as honestly as I could. The good parts and the parts that were not good. My stepmother Diane is 61. She and my father have been married for 23 years, and by most visible measures, it is a solid marriage that has made him happy in ways his first one didn't. And I am capable of holding that as true while also holding the other things that are true. She has never been cruel to me. She has also never quite managed to make me feel like I belonged in the room, and those two things coexisted for my entire adolescence in a way I have spent a long time trying to understand. When I told my father I was writing the memoir 3 years ago, he was quiet for a while, and then he said he was proud of me, and that he hoped I'd be fair, which is the word parents use when they mean please don't say what actually happened. I told him I would be truthful, which is a different thing, and he accepted that. Diane told her book club she was going to be in the acknowledgments in January. My father mentioned it to me in February, casually. The way he mentions things he has decided are already settled. I had written the acknowledgments by then. Diane was not in them. My therapist was in them. My college professor who read the first draft was in them. My 2 closest friends were in them. My father was in them, briefly, in a way that was true without being uncomplicated. I told my father I needed to talk to Diane directly. He looked at me with the expression he gets when he can see something difficult coming and has already decided to wait it out rather than involve himself. That expression has been consistent since I was 12. I called Diane on a Sunday afternoon. I told her the acknowledgments were finished and that I wanted her to know before the book was in production that she wasn't included. I told her the memoir covered a period of time that I had needed to process privately, and that the acknowledgments reflected the people who had been part of my writing life specifically, rather than my life generally. I was careful. I said it without apology because I had decided in advance not to apologize for the content of my own book. She was quiet for long enough that I asked if she was still there. Then she said, "I've been telling people for 2 years." I said I knew, and I was sorry about that, about the awkwardness of the discrepancy. She said, "Do I appear in the book?" And I said yes. She said, "How?" I said honestly, which was probably not the right word to use in that moment, and I knew it when I said it. She said, "Your father is going to be very hurt by this," which is the move she has always made, routing things through my father rather than claiming her own response directly. I said I had talked to my father about the book and that this was a conversation between us. She said, "You've already decided," and I said yes. She said, "I've tried very hard with you," and I said, "I know you have," and I meant it. And then neither of us said anything for a moment, and the moment went on long enough to mean something. She said goodbye and ended the call, and I sat at my desk and looked at the wall for a while. My father called the next morning. He was not angry the way I expected, more weary, like someone who has been carrying something for a long time and has just been told the distance is longer than he thought. He said, "She's upset," and I said, "I know." He said, "Could you have handled it differently?" And I said, "Probably," and he said, "But you're not going to," and I said no. The book goes to final proofs next month. I read the acknowledgments again last week looking for anything I wanted to change. I didn't change anything.